Pray.
Nurse noticed the blood bags disappearing. The Vampire King was the hospital's CEO. Ilara had always loved her work.
Operation. The hospital, with its bright white walls and quiet corridors, felt like a place of hope. Patients came in broken and scared, and it was her duty to help them, to make them feel safe. Bert. She worked night shifts mostly, because she liked the calm.
The world was quiet then, and the dim lights made the hospital feel almost peaceful.
But lately, something had changed. It started with the blood bags.
Ilara noticed it one evening while checking the storage room. One bag, then another, had disappeared.
Bert. At first, she thought she had misplaced them, or that someone had moved them for a procedure. But then, night after night, the numbers kept going down.
Nothing made sense. The hospital was large, and every item was tracked carefully.
Blood could not just vanish. Ilara frowned, rubbing her tired eyes.
Breath. She had always been curious, and curiosity was a trait that could get a nurse into trouble, but tonight she was determined to find out what was happening. Brrr. She checked the logs, questioned her colleagues discreetly, and even asked the security team if cameras had caught anything unusual. No one knew. No one had seen anything, and that was when she felt it. A strange chill in the air. The hospital always felt colder at night, but this was different. It was as if the shadows themselves were watching her. She shook her head, trying to push the thought away. I must be imagining things, she whispered to herself. But the feeling stayed, lingering like a shadow in her chest.
She decided to go to the CEO's office.
Lord Valerian. His name alone carried a weight that made many staff nervous.
He was young, but looked older than his years, as if he had seen centuries pass. His presence was commanding, Bert. When he walked through the halls, even the bravest doctors seemed to lower their heads slightly. Ilara had only met him once before for a brief introduction. But tonight, she needed answers. She walked down the long corridor, her footsteps echoing softly. The hospital was quiet. Almost too quiet. Every door she passed seemed closed in a way that kept secrets inside. And when she finally reached Valerian's office, she hesitated for a moment. The door was slightly ajar, and a soft golden light spilled into the hallway. Taking a deep breath, she knocked. Come in, a voice said. Smooth. Calm. Almost hypnotic. Ilara pushed the door open. Lord Valerian was seated behind a large dark desk. The room was filled with ancient-looking books, jars of strange herbs, and ornaments she couldn't identify. It was not a typical CEO office. The shadows in the corners seemed to move slightly, as if alive. Ah, Nurse Ilara, he said, rising. His eyes were striking, dark, almost black, yet somehow glowing faintly in the dim light. I was wondering when you would come to see me. Ilara swallowed hard. Something about him made her nervous, yet there was a strange pull she couldn't explain. She took a step forward.
Sir, I've noticed some unusual activity with the blood supplies.
Bags have disappeared, and no one seems to know why.
I thought maybe you could help me understand.
Valerian smiled, a small curve of his lips that seemed to know far more than he let on.
Blood is precious, he said softly. Sometimes what disappears is meant to be found by those who are willing to see. Elara frowned. His words were strange, almost like a riddle. Bird. I don't understand, she said. You will? He replied, stepping closer. There was something magnetic about him, and she found herself leaning in without realizing it. Some truths are hidden from ordinary eyes. Berate. Some dangers are too great to face alone. But I think you are different. Curious. Brave. Compassionate. She felt her heart beat faster. He was speaking to her in a way no one had ever spoken before. It was flattering and frightening all at once.
Sir, please, she said, trying to regain her composure. I only want to know what's happening.
People's lives are involved. Valerian studied her, his gaze sharp and intense. For a moment, she thought he could see into her very soul. Then he nodded slowly. Very well, he said. I will show you, but you must promise to keep an open mind. What you are about to see may change everything you believe. Elara nodded, her curiosity overpowering her fear. Valerian led her through a hidden door at the back of his office. The door creaked as it opened, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into darkness. A chill ran down her spine, but she followed. The air grew colder and heavier with each step, almost like the weight of time pressing down on them. Finally, they reached a vast underground chamber. The walls were lined with shelves filled with jars of blood, each glowing faintly red under the soft light of hanging lanterns. And in the center a group of figures moved silently, their eyes glinting in the dark. Elara's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen anything like this. Ah! What is this place? She whispered. Valerian's voice was calm, almost gentle. This is my world. The blood you see here, it is life itself. Some of it comes from willing donors, some from other sources. And I am its keeper. Keeper. The word echoed in her mind. And then, for the first time, she saw him fully. Valerian's eyes glowed brighter, and his fangs were visible when he smiled. The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. He was a vampire. A real vampire, standing right in front of her. Her knees almost gave way, but she steadied herself. You're a vampire? She asked, her voice trembling.
Valerian inclined his head, as if acknowledging a truth that had existed for centuries.
Yes, he said softly. But do not be afraid, Bert. I do not harm those who are innocent. My hunger, is controlled. My purpose, is greater than mere survival.
Elara's mind raced.
Everything she had believed about the world, about life, about danger, it shifted in an instant.
And yet, there was something human in him. Something that made her want to understand rather than run. You're the reason the blood bags have been disappearing, she said slowly, piecing it together. You've been taking them.
I take only what is necessary, Valerian replied.
To protect myself. To protect others. Elara frowned. Test. Valerian stepped closer, and she could feel the cold aura around him, yet it was strangely comforting. Inspiration.
Yes, you are brave enough to ask questions.
To seek the truth. Most would turn away. Inspiration. Most would fear. But you!
You are different. The words stirred something deep inside her.
Her heart felt heavy and light at the same time.
And then he reached out, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his presence.
There is danger ahead,
He said.
and there is potential for greatness.
Inspiration. But only if you are willing to step closer.
Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from above.
Bird. A shelf in the hidden chamber shook violently, jars rattling. Valerian's eyes sharpened instantly, and in a motion faster than she could follow, he moved to protect her. Inspiration. Shadows shifted, and she glimpsed a figure retreating into the darkness. Someone, or something, had entered. Her pulse raced. Who was that? She whispered. Valerian's face was unreadable, his eyes glinting. Inspiration.
A threat, he said simply. One of many.
But you may be the key to survival.
Oh, the reason for ruin.
Alara's chest tightened. She wanted to run, to escape, to leave this dark, impossible world behind. And yet, some part of her, a deep, hidden part, wanted to stay, wanted to see, to understand, to be part of it.
She glanced at him. Why me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper.
Valerian's gaze softened for the briefest moment, almost human in its warmth.
Because you are.
Alive. And the living have power even the immortal cannot ignore. The chamber grew quiet again, the only sound the soft dripping of water somewhere in the distance. Elara's mind was racing, her heart pounding. She knew that nothing in her life would ever be the same. She had stepped into a world of shadows, of ancient power, and of impossible secrets. And then she found something unexpected on the floor near the jars. A small, folded note, blood-stained but carefully written. She picked it up with trembling hands. In careful script it read, "Do not fear me. Fear what you may become if you do not come closer." Alara's breath caught. She looked at Valerian, who was watching her silently, his expression unreadable. The words burned into her mind. The warning was clear, and yet the pull she felt toward him was undeniable. Her fingers tightened around the note. She realized that her life had changed in a single night. The blood bags, the disappearing supplies, the shadows, and the vampire who ruled the hospital, none of it was accidental. She was part of something much larger now, something dangerous, and something beautiful in a terrifying way.
As she followed Valerian back up the staircase, her mind swirled with questions, fears, and a strange, undeniable longing.
What was he testing her for? Could she trust him? And most importantly, was she ready to step closer into a world that promised both danger and destiny?
The hospital night seemed darker than ever as she walked back to her station, the note clutched tightly in her hand.
Breath. Outside, the moon cast a silver light over the building, and the shadows seemed to watch her every step.
Elara knew one thing with certainty. Her life had been touched by something eternal, something ancient, and she could never go back to the ordinary world she had known.
The first piece of the mystery had been revealed, but the truth, the full truth, was only just beginning. And deep inside her chest, her heart beat faster than ever before, a mixture of fear, wonder, and something she could not yet name.
Elara could not sleep that night.
Desperation. The note, with its strange warning, lay on her bedside table. Its words echoed in her mind like a whisper from another world. Do not fear me. Desperation.
Fear what you may become if you do not come closer. She tried to push the thought away, telling herself it was nonsense.
But the image of Lord Valerian, the vampire CEO, standing in the shadowed chamber, watching her, lingered. There was something about him that was impossible to ignore, a presence that both frightened and fascinated her. Desperation. His eyes had held a depth she could not understand, like he had lived through centuries of secrets and sorrow. By morning, she returned to the hospital, hoping that the daylight would make everything feel normal again. Desperation. But the corridors seemed quieter than usual, almost waiting, as if they too remembered the night before. Her co-workers moved about as if nothing had happened, unaware of the mystery lurking beneath the hospital's clean surface. Elara's curiosity, however, would not let her forget. She walked toward Valerian's office, each step heavy with hesitation. She had questions, and she could not leave them unanswered. The office door was open, and he was waiting. Brrr.
Not in the commanding, distant way he usually was, but with a look that seemed expectant.
Brett.
You returned, he said, his voice calm, smooth, yet somehow carrying a weight that made her heart flutter. I have questions, Elara admitted.
Desperation.
About the blood. About everything. Valerian studied her for a moment, then nodded.
Very well, he said. But know this. Some truths are not gentle. They are not meant for comfort, only for understanding. Are you ready for that? Elara nodded, though a shiver ran down her spine. She felt a pull, stronger than fear, that urged her to see what lay behind his words. He led her again through the hidden staircase, descending into the chamber below. This time the room felt alive. Shadows moved like liquid, and the air was thick with the scent of iron and something older, something eternal. The shelves of glowing blood jars stretched into the darkness.
Bird. Figures moved silently between them. Vampires, she realized, each one poised and alert. Elara swallowed hard.
She had never imagined such a place existed, not in a modern hospital. And yet, here it was. Valerian turned to her. Do not be afraid, he said. You are safe here, because you are different. Most humans could not bear to see what lies beyond the veil. But you may understand.
Understand what?
She asked. The life that flows beneath this world, he replied, gesturing to the jars. The forces that sustain me, and the dangers that surround me. They are enemies who would take everything I have and those I care for their own gain.
Elara felt a chill, realizing the weight of his words. Enemies!
Here? In a hospital? Valerian's eyes darkened, his voice lowering.
Not just in this hospital.
Not just in this city. My world stretches far beyond what you can see.
And yet, I have chosen to build a place where humans can heal, where life can be protected. Inspiration. Her mind raced. He was not merely a vampire, but a ruler of something far larger than she had imagined. Bert. And somehow he had chosen her, an ordinary nurse, to witness this hidden world. As she stepped closer, she noticed how his presence seemed to fill the room. Bears. There was an energy, almost magnetic, that pulled at her. She wanted to resist it, yet she felt rooted to the spot, unable to turn away. "Why me?" she asked again, her voice trembling slightly. Berate. "Why show me all this?" Valerian's gaze softened, almost tenderly. "Because you are not like the others." Inspiration. Most fear what they do not understand. Most would run. But despot. "But you seek truth. And in truth, there is power." Inspiration.
Elara blinked, trying to process the meaning behind his words. Power?
What could a human like her possibly have against someone like him? Someone immortal. Someone who had seen centuries pass. Before she could ask more, a sound came from the shadows. A soft, almost imperceptible movement. She turned, her heart racing, and caught a glimpse of a figure retreating into the darkness. Valerian's eyes followed the movement, sharp and alert. Bray, threats are always near, he said quietly. And they test the unprepared. But you may become an ally. If you are willing. Elara's stomach tightened. Inspiration. She wanted to run, to escape, but her curiosity anchored her.
Ally.
Of you? She asked.
Valerian nodded.
Inspiration. Yes. I protect life. Yes. But I cannot do it alone. Not everything can be controlled with strength alone. Sometimes inspiration and compassion. And compassion. Inspiration.
That is why you are important.
She took a shaky breath. Inspiration. Compassion. Could she, a single nurse, truly matter to someone like him? And yet she could feel the truth in his words, in the way he looked at her, not as prey, not as a tool, but as someone who could matter in a world she had never known. Valerian turned and motioned toward a section of the chamber she had not noticed before. Bray. It was a small hidden area, lined with old relics, strange stones and jars that glowed with a soft red light. These are artifacts, he explained. Some are old, older than any living human. They contain power, knowledge, and protection. They can heal or harm. They can sustain or destroy. Inspiration. Elara stepped closer, fascinated. Why keep him here? Because this hospital is more than it seems, he said. It is a sanctuary, a place of life, and sometimes a place of battle. Those who threaten it cannot be allowed to succeed. Inspiration. Her mind spun. The hospital, the place of healing, was also a place of hidden war. And she was at the center of it. Fear battled with fascination in her chest. Inspiration. She wanted to flee, but some part of her wanted to stay, to learn, to understand.
For the next hours, Valerian explained more.
About his curse, about his enemies, and about the centuries of solitude he had endured. She listened, captivated, yet afraid. There was sadness in his story, a weight of loneliness and regret. He had lived for hundreds of years, yet carried the burden of isolation, never allowing himself to connect, to trust, to love. Ilara realized that beneath the vampire's power and danger there was a man, albeit immortal, who longed for something beyond survival. She felt a strange kinship with him, a desire to understand him, to reach the human within the monster. As the night grew darker, their conversation paused. The chamber was silent, filled only with the soft hum of shadows and the faint glow of the blood jars. Valerian watched her carefully, his expression unreadable.
Most would have left hours ago. You have potential. Ilara!
But bravery alone is not enough. You must learn to see with more than your eyes. Inspiration to feel with more than your heart.
I don't understand, she admitted.
Bird.
Not yet, he said. But you will.
Inspiration. And when you do, you will see that the world is more complex than fear or courage. There is choice.
And there is destiny. And your choice may shape both.
Inspiration.
Ilara's pulse quickened. Destiny.
The word hung heavy in the air, and she realized the meaning was not metaphorical. She had stepped into a world that was ancient, hidden, and powerful. Inspiration. And somehow, she had been chosen to witness it.
A sudden noise from above startled her.
She spun around, heart racing. Something, or someone, was moving through the shadows above the chamber. Inspiration. Valerian's eyes darkened, and his posture shifted into something predatory yet protective. "Threats come," he said quietly, "but you
must decide. Will you stand with me?
Desperadia.
Or will you turn away?" Ilara felt a mix of fear and something deeper, something she could not name. She knew that staying meant danger, but leaving meant leaving the truth, leaving understanding, leaving the pull she felt toward Valerian.
Inspiration. Her hand tightened around the edge of a glowing jar. She looked at him, and for the first time, she saw vulnerability in the immortal. A hint of loneliness, a shadow of longing that had persisted through centuries. I want to understand, she said finally, her voice trembling but firm. Inspiration. Valerian inclined his head, a small, almost approving smile touching his lips. Then you will see. But know this, Ilara, once you see, there is no turning back. And sometimes, seeing brings both wonder and pain. She nodded.
The weight of the words settled in her chest, yet her decision was made. She would follow him, step into this hidden world, and face whatever came.
As they ascended back to the surface, the first light of dawn touched the horizon, casting long shadows across the hospital walls. Ilara's mind was a whirl of thoughts, questions, and a strange excitement. She was stepping into a story larger than herself, one of power, danger, and perhaps forbidden connection.
When they reached the top, Valerian paused. His eyes, glowing faintly even in the morning light, met hers.
Remember the note, he said softly. Do not fear me. Fear what you may become if you do not come closer. The choice is yours, Ilara. And the consequences will follow you forever. Her fingers brushed the note in her pocket, and she realized that the pull she felt was stronger than ever. The shadows of the hospital, the secrets of Valerian's world, and the promise of discovery had bound her to this path. She could not turn back now. And deep in her heart, a quiet thrill stirred, a mixture of fear, fascination, and a longing she could not yet name. The first step had been taken. The shadows had welcomed her. And the world of the Vampire King had opened its doors. The hospital had never felt so alive at night. Her shadows stretched across the corridors, moving as if they had a life of their own. Elara walked through the hallways with careful steps, her heart still racing from the night she had spent in the underground chamber with Valerian. She could not stop thinking about him, about his eyes, his voice, the way he seemed to see everything about her without a single word. But she also could not forget the danger. The hospital was no longer just a place of healing. It had become a world she did not understand, a world filled with ancient power, hidden enemies, and rules she had never known existed. Elara entered the storage room where the blood bags were kept. The missing bags had always been a mystery, but now she understood that they were not missing by accident. They were part of Valerian's secret world, a world that kept him alive and protected those he cared for. She had questions. So many questions. But before she could even begin, she heard the soft click of a door behind her. She turned to see Valerian standing there, his eyes dark and steady. "You are restless," he said softly, "and curious. That is why you are still here." "I have to understand," Elara admitted. "I need to know why this happens. Why you need the blood." Why the hospital? Why all of this? Valerian stepped closer. "It is not as simple as survival," he said. "I do not take blood to satisfy hunger. I take it because I must. My life? My curse is tied to it, and the cost of failing is too great." Elara frowned. "A curse?" He nodded, his expression solemn.
Yes, I was not born this way.
Once I was like any other man. I loved, I lived, and I lost. My choice to survive brought this life upon me, a life that demands sacrifice and isolation. The blood sustains me, yes, but it also reminds me of what I cannot have, what I cannot allow myself to feel without risking destruction. Elara's chest tightened. She saw not a monster, but a man bound by centuries of loneliness. A man who had seen the world change while he remained trapped in his own survival. Her curiosity grew, but so did her empathy. "Then why let me see this?" she asked softly. "Why involve me?" "Because you are human," he said, "and humans see the world differently."
Humans feel things differently. Your heart, it may guide me in ways my curse cannot.
You may remind me of what I have lost, and what I might still gain if I am careful. The weight of his words pressed on her. He trusted her. The thought should have frightened her, but it did not. Instead, it made her feel connected.
"You are asking a lot," she whispered. "I am asking the truth," he said, "and you have chosen to accept it."
That is rare, Elara. Bravery is rare. Compassion even rarer.
She looked down at her hands, trembling slightly. "I don't know if I'm brave. I just..."
Want to do what is right.
Valerian studied her, his gaze softening for a moment. "Then perhaps you are braver than you know?"
Safe.
"And perhaps
That is why you are here. Not by chance, but by choice. Inspiration. Before she could respond, a soft sound came from the hall, a whisper of movement that made her heart skip. Shadows shifted in the corners of the room. Bursh. Valerian's posture changed instantly. His centuries of instinct kicked in, and Alara could see the predator beneath the calm exterior. Inspiration. Another threat, he said quietly. Brr. You must remain still. Let me handle this. A figure emerged from the darkness. A rival vampire. One of the few who knew of Valerian's existence and sought to challenge him. Brr. The tension was immediate, almost tangible, and Alara felt a surge of fear. Valerian moved with precision, not attacking in anger but in defense. Bird. The rival hesitated, recognizing the centuries of power he faced. Alara could only watch, heart pounding, as Valerian controlled the situation with a calm that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Brr. When the rival disappeared into the shadows, Valerian turned back to her, his eyes softer now but heavy with unspoken thoughts.
You should not see this, he said, almost to himself.
But you have. And now... Brr. You know the world I must navigate. You know the danger that surrounds me, and yet you remain. Brit.
That is extraordinary! Alara swallowed hard.
Brad. She wanted to speak, to comfort him, but no words came. She only realized that she had already decided to stay, to face whatever came with him. Brr. For the next days, Alara became more involved in his secret world. She learned about the vampires who served him, the rules that bound them, and the hidden magic that sustained them. Brr. She was careful, learning quietly, asking questions when she dared, and observing when she could. And in the quiet moments when the hospital was empty, Valerian allowed her glimpses of the man beneath the immortal exterior. He spoke of long-lost loves, of cities that had risen and fallen, of friends who had betrayed him and enemies he had defeated. Each story was a mixture of sorrow and wisdom, and Alara found herself drawn to him more with each passing moment. Brrr. She saw that he carried his curse not as a burden alone, but as a responsibility. Every action, every choice was weighed against the lives of others. And in that, she began to understand why he had chosen to reveal his world to her. One night, she found him alone in a chamber, staring at the glowing blood jars. His expression was distant, almost melancholy. Brr.
You think about it, she said softly, stepping closer. About what you've lost. Valerian did not respond immediately.
Inspiration. He finally looked at her, his eyes reflecting centuries of memory. But I cannot live in the past. It is a trap. Inspiration. And yet, the past is a part of me. And the only way to move forward is to face it, and to choose what I become next. Brash. Alara stepped closer, the warmth of her presence brushing against him, though she could feel the cold that radiated from his body. And what will you become? She asked quietly. Bree. He studied her, and for the first time she saw vulnerability in him. I do not know, he admitted. Inspiration. But perhaps someone capable of more than survival. Perhaps! Brash. Someone capable of love, if I am careful. If I am strong enough to resist the darkness within me. Bert. Her heart beat faster. The words were almost like a promise, though unspoken, and she realized that she cared for him. Care that was dangerous and yet impossible to deny. Inspiration. Suddenly, a small accident occurred. Alara's hand slipped on the edge of a shelf, and a tiny shard of glass cut her palm. She gasped at the sting, blood welling up immediately. Valerian's eyes darkened instantly. Bree.
He moved with breathtaking speed, cupping her hand gently, but his gaze was intense, almost desperate. "Elara," he said softly, "stay still." She could feel the heat, or perhaps it was cold, hard to tell, emanating from him as he lowered his mouth to her wound. Brr. His fangs did not pierce, but she could feel the touch, the pull, and the strange power that flowed from him. She froze, unsure what to do, and yet unable to pull away. Brahation. When he pulled back, the bleeding had stopped. Her hand was healed almost miraculously, but she noticed the faint glow fading from his eyes as if the act had cost him something.
Brahation. "You are too precious to me," he said quietly. "More to himself than to her. I cannot lose you. Not like this."
Brahation.
Not to something so small, yet so dangerous. Elara stared at him, her mind racing.
Bert. The connection they shared had deepened. This was no longer simply fascination or curiosity. It was trust, and something more. Something neither of them could name yet, but both felt. She realized that she was now part of his world, bound to it not by choice alone, but by events that had already begun to weave their threads around her life. Every glance, every touch, every moment in his presence was a step deeper into a world that was ancient, powerful, and terrifyingly beautiful. Valerian looked at her again, the faint glow in his eyes now returning, a mixture of control and emotion.
"You will need to be careful," he said. "This world, it tests those who enter it."
But you have the heart to withstand it, if you allow yourself to be strong.
Elara nodded, her own determination hardening.
She had chosen this path, and though the dangers were clear, so was the reward. The reward of understanding, of connection, of glimpsing the heart of someone who had survived centuries. And in that moment, she realized that she had begun to care for him, not for his power, not for his immortality, but for the man beneath it. The man who had been cursed, and who now, somehow, was beginning to trust her. The night deepened around them. Shadows shifted across the walls, whispering secrets she could not yet understand. But for the first time, Elara did not feel fear. She felt purpose. She felt connection. And she felt the stirrings of something powerful. Something that could change both of their lives forever. She knew that the journey was far from over. Threats still lurked, the vampire's curse remained, and the balance between survival and compassion was delicate. But she also knew that she would not turn back. Because in the darkness, she had found something she could not ignore. The heart of the vampire king, and the faint, fragile light of redemption within him. And, deep inside her, a quiet determination whispered that together they could face whatever shadows awaited them. The hospital was silent as night fell, a silence heavier than usual, like the air itself was holding its breath. The corridors, empty and dimly lit, seemed to stretch forever. Elara walked slowly, her mind tangled with questions, fears, and an undeniable longing. She had grown used to the hidden world she now inhabited, the world of Lord Valerian, the vampire king of the hospital. Yet even after weeks of witnessing his strength, his sorrow, and his moments of vulnerability, she could not shake the feeling that something greater, something dangerous was coming. The moon hung low, casting silver shadows through the tall windows.
"Elara!"
Paused at the nurse's station and glanced at the clock.
"Midnight!"
The hour when the hospital seemed to come alive, when ordinary life faded and the secrets of the night demanded attention. She had learned to move quietly, to sense the currents of power in the air. And tonight the currents were restless. She felt him before she saw him.
Valerian's presence was like a tide, powerful and steady, brushing against her awareness. She turned a corner and found him in the central hall, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light.
Bray. He looked older than ever tonight. Centuries of thought and pain etched into his face, but there was determination there too, a resolve she had not seen before. Elara, he said softly, his voice carrying in the empty hall. It is time. The threat we have anticipated. It is here. Operation.
Her stomach tightened. She had sensed it too. The shifting shadows, the faint movements at the edges of perception that did not belong to the hospital staff.
Barris. She nodded. What do we do? She asked, her voice steady despite the rush of adrenaline. Valerian stepped closer, and she could feel the cold power radiating from him. Yet beneath it, there was something else, a quiet warmth reserved only for her. We face it, he said. Together.
But you must remain strong, for what is coming will test everything we are, everything we have built, and the bond that now connects us. Elara's pulse quickened. Bond.
The word stirred something deep inside her, a mixture of fear, awe, and longing. She had come to care for him deeply, not just for his strength, but for the man beneath the vampire's curse. And now, in the quiet of the hospital night, she realized that their fates were entwined, their lives linked in a way that could not be undone. The first signs of movement appeared near the storage rooms. Shadows stretched unnaturally, shifting like living creatures. A rival vampire had returned, stronger and more cunning than before, seeking to take the hospital, and perhaps Valerian, for himself. Valerian moved like a shadow, a predator honed by centuries of experience. His eyes glowed brighter as he assessed the threat, and Elara could see both the power and the burden he carried. Bray. He had fought countless battles before, but this one was different. Because she was here. Because he cared for her. Because he could not risk the darkness consuming her as it had nearly consumed him in the past. Stay close, he instructed, his voice low and urgent. Do not let fear guide you. Let courage and reason. Elara nodded, gripping the edge of the railing as she followed him through the winding corridors. Her heart pounded in her chest, a rhythm that matched the tension in the air. She was no longer just a nurse, an observer of the hospital's secrets. She was a participant, a witness, and perhaps even a key to what was about to unfold. The rival appeared, stepping from the shadows with a cold, calculating stare. Its presence made the air feel heavier, more dangerous, as if the night itself had turned against them, bears. Valerian's gaze hardened. This ends tonight, he said, his voice carrying both authority and warning. The rival lunged, and Valerian met him with a strength and precision that left Elara in awe. But she noticed something unusual. Valerian hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. His mind was not solely on combat, it was on her safety, on the delicate balance between his immortal strength and the fragile human he had come to protect. In that instant, Elara realized that she had a role to play. She stepped forward, her voice firm, though her hands trembled slightly. You cannot win with violence alone, she said.
There is more to this than strength. There is life.
There is choice. There is redemption. The rival paused, its eyes narrowing, perhaps underestimating the courage of a single human. Valerian's eyes met hers, and she saw the silent question there. Trust me, or stay back.
I trust you, she whispered. With her presence grounding him, Valerian moved with renewed focus.
The rival faltered, unable to anticipate the combination of power and heart that Valerian now wielded. It was not just skill, but purpose that guided him. Berate. And through it all, Elara stayed near, her courage a quiet anchor in the storm of shadows. Finally, the rival was forced to retreat, melting into the darkness from which it had come. The tension in the hospital slowly eased, the air returning to a calmer rhythm. Valerian turned to Elara, his face a mixture of relief and exhaustion, yet there was something warmer there too, a hint of gratitude, of something deeper that could not be spoken aloud. You were brave, he said softly, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. More than you realize. You remind me of what it means to be human. And that is more powerful than anything I could have imagined. Elara looked up at him, her own chest still racing. I wanted to help, she said quietly. I wanted to be here for you, for all of this. He studied her, the faint glow of his eyes now soft, almost gentle. You have done more than that, he replied. You have given me something I thought lost to time. You have given me hope, and perhaps the chance to choose differently. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of relief and something more, something that neither fear nor caution could diminish. She realized then that her connection to Valerian was no longer just curiosity or fascination. It was trust, care, and a quiet, growing affection that had been nurtured through danger and shared understanding. They moved together to the rooftop, where the moonlight spilled like silver over the building. The city stretched below them, quiet and unaware of the hidden battles that had taken place in its midst. Valerian stood near the edge, his long coat billowing in the night wind, and Elara stepped beside him, feeling the solid presence of his strength and the fragility of his centuries-old curse. I have lived for centuries, he said, his voice low and thoughtful. And yet, I have never felt this. Never felt the chance to choose something beyond survival, to protect not only myself but someone I care for, truly care for. That is new to me. That is dangerous and wonderful. Elara's gaze met his. You don't have to do it alone, she said softly.
We can face it together. He turned to her, the faint glow in his eyes now warmer, softer.
I know, he said, and that is why I trust you. To stand by me is not easy, but you do it willingly. That is rare in this world. Rare even for me. The wind swept past them, carrying the scent of the city and the faint hint of night flowers. Elara realized how much she had changed, how much she had grown. She had stepped into a world of shadows and power, fear, and wonder. And yet, in choosing to stay, she had also discovered courage, understanding, and the fragile, beautiful connection that could redeem even the darkest of hearts. Valerian's hand brushed hers, tentative, almost shy. Desperate. Elara! What we face, it will not end with this night. There will be more challenges, more enemies, more shadows to navigate. But I choose to face them with you.
If you will allow it. Her fingers tightened around his, warmth meeting cold, life meeting eternity.
I choose it too,
she said, her voice steady, though her heart raced. I am here, with you. For a moment, time seemed to hold still.
The moonlight cast a silver glow over them, and the city below lay quiet, as if the world itself had paused to witness the union of trust, courage, and hope. Valerian's eyes glimmered with a faint human light, and Elara could see that something inside him had shifted. The curse that had bound him for centuries was still there, but for the first time, it seemed lighter, tempered by connection, care, and the possibility of choice. I have lived too long in shadows, he said quietly.
But perhaps the dawn can be different now.
Oration. Perhaps we can be different now. Elara felt a smile tug at her lips. We can, she said softly. Together.
As the first light of dawn touched the rooftop, casting golden streaks across the city, the shadows retreated.
The hospital behind them seemed ordinary again, yet the hidden battles, the secrets, and the choices made in the night had changed everything. Elara knew that life with Valerian would not be easy. There would always be danger, always be the pull of darkness. But she also knew that they had discovered something rare: trust, hope, and a bond that could transform even a centuries-old curse. The Vampire King stood beside her, no longer just a figure of fear and power, but a man capable of choice, redemption, and connection. And in the quiet light of dawn, they faced the future together, bound not by blood alone, but by courage, care, and a love that was just beginning to bloom. But the shadows had tested them, the darkness had threatened them, but together they had found a new path. A path that promised light, trust, and the fragile beauty of a shared destiny. And as the city awoke below them, Elara and Valerian stood on the rooftop, hand in hand, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it side by side. Because even in a world of curses, shadows, and ancient power, there was hope. And even in a heart bound by centuries of darkness, love could find a way.